What would happen if a nuclear war broke out today?
It will be the worst thing ever to happen in human history.
It's the moment people across the world have feared for more than 70 years. An incident between the United States and Russia has escalated.
Out of the 10,000 nuclear weapons that are in the possession of the military, roughly 1,800 are on alert, ready to go on top of ballistic missiles on very short notice. The overwhelming amount of nuclear weapons on alert are US and Russian.
The US and Russia have missiles both on subs and on land. Land missiles are based deep in the heartland of each country. And while both sides have them in silos, only Russia deploys mobile launchers. These weapons are designed to kill and destroy on an unthinkable level.
If you make the rocket very large, and you can make the nuclear warheads very small, you don't have to limit yourself to just one warhead per missile.
Some missiles have as many as 10 warheads. Each one 50 times as powerful as the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima in 1945.
In the first strike, you're going to have something in the order of 600 to 700 ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads from both countries flying against each other.
A nuclear war in the modern age is going to be pretty fast. A lot of it is going to be motivated by the fact that a lot of our weapons are targeting a lot of their weapons and vice versa. So whoever strikes first gets to use their weapon. If you leave the weapon in the silo and they're allowed to hit it, then you've lost it. They call this use it or lose it.
The first cities that would be hit are cities that have important military and civilian leadership and command structure in them. Washington, D.C., Moscow. You would have enormously devastating consequences. In Washington, D.C., the most likely targets to be hit very early on include the White House and the Pentagon. A 500-kiloton warhead attack on the White House would create a fireball with a diameter of 1 mile.
You are vaporized. You are instantly one with the universe.
At virtually the same time as Russian bombs hit Washington, the US, Britain, and France strike Moscow with 80 warheads. The city becomes a field of flaming wreckage, and 1 million people are dead almost instantly. In Kansas, America's heartland, the first occupants arrive at a unique high-end survival bunker. Lavishly outfitted from the remains of a silo that once housed an Atlas rocket, America's first intercontinental ballistic missile.
There aren't very many fallout shelters anymore. But people have decked out these missile silos into these luxury apartments. They cost more than $1 million.
They have 5 years worth of food, they've got hydroponic growing systems, and apparently 70 people, that's a community, can live for 5 years and wait for the worst to blow over.
As the war expands worldwide, a Russian naval commander finds a target of opportunity in the southern Pacific. An American aircraft carrier docked in Australia at Sydney Harbor. The Russian commander launches a nuclear-tipped cruise missile at it to take it out. The carrier and its 6,000 crew members are instantly vaporized. 6,000 miles away, American nukes strike Beijing as the U.S. suspects Chinese involvement in the Sydney attack. Chinese submarines retaliate. With nuclear hits along America's west coast, from Seattle to San Diego. The death toll pushes past 100 million. as thousands of square miles are left smoldering where cities and military bases once stood.
Look back at the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If you just multiply that by millions, you can imagine the aftermath of a global nuclear exchange.
When Russian warheads struck American missile silos in the northern mountain states, radioactive fallout began taking a massive toll.
Wind patterns would carry it and drop it on huge areas of the country. So there would essentially be no safe place to go.
To have some idea of what's going to happen in the future after these cities are ruined, think of Chernobyl. There were cities nearby that were evacuated. Today, they're really overgrown with vegetation and animals are just roaming freely there. That's what it's going to be across huge swaths of North America, for example.
The world now settles into a deep gloom as the skies go dark. The bombs started massive fires that sent 50 million tons of soot into the air. The soot from the massive nuclear-fueled fires blocks so much sunlight that it plunges the world into a sudden nuclear winter.
This is an ice age with fallout, with radiation. Everything is going to be damaged in some way or another.
Scientists say a nuclear winter will freeze the Earth for about 2 decades.
The onset of this winter is shocking. This is a long-term, horrible catastrophe that would happen in the case of a global thermonuclear war.
2 decades later, the fiery destruction of nuclear war has left half the planet in ruins. And nearly 90% of the world's population has died off.
Say a handful of people do make it, and they're in one of these shelters, and it's time for them to venture back out onto the surface. They will be entering into a completely unfamiliar terrain. Everything they knew of would be gone.
The Earth eventually begins to thaw from its nuclear winter. The winds break up the global cloud cover, letting sunlight back in, and the planet slowly warms. With the passage of time, the world's decimated population grows, slowly. A century later, the ruins of abandoned cities are overgrown by weeds, as nature eventually reclaims them. There is little rebuilding in the Northern Hemisphere, where the destruction was the greatest.
Now, the real interesting question is what will happen with the rest of the world? Will maybe, perhaps, Brazil rise to power, or South Africa, or even Australia?
But a rise to power will be a slow process. A city like Rio de Janeiro may not have been physically destroyed, but so many died from starvation that few people remained to pick up where civilization left off.